everyone, and welcome back to CoinRank. We are very happy to be joined today by a very special guest, Mike from AEON. AEON has been making some serious wave recently, especially in the intersection of AI and crypto payments. So, Mike, welcome to the show. To kick things off, could you please introduce yourself and give our audience a quick introduction of AEON?
Nice to meet you, everybody. Thank you for having me, Mickey. It's always nice to speak. I am Mike Massari. I am VP of Research and Partnership at AEON. AEON, as you correctly said, is a company that is looking very much into PayFi. We've been looking into PayFi for quite a while now. And lately, as of maybe like months ago, we started looking into AI payments more and more. So we are one of the co-partners of X402, which is the Coinbase initiative to facilitate AI payments around multiple avenues. Because if you think about it, nowadays, AI can do a bunch of things, but one thing that they definitely cannot do is just buy a book, right? Or just book a hotel or book a flight. So this is the problem that we're trying to solve right now, among many others. Very keen to talk with you about all of them.
AEON defines itself as the crypto settlement layer for AI. What was the inspiration behind this specific mission? And also, I'm very curious, what gaps in the current Web3 payment stack are you trying to fill specifically for AI agents?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and it necessitates a bit of context. So we started this as a crypto settlement layer for payments. We have a network of over 30 million merchants across the world, and we figured that, like we all work in crypto and we've been using crypto for a very long time, but in everyday purchases, that's very difficult to do still. Even if you use stablecoin, merchants usually don't, or, you need to bridge them to different chains. You need to know about, price, like euros to whichever, like ETH or whichever other asset you use. You need to know about slippage. You need to have a wallet. Like, it's so complicated. Then, effectively the adoption of crypto payment is only 2% of the complete industry. When we started, it was only 2%. Now it's a bit higher. Like, also thanks for us. But in AI, we have a similar problem. Like, if you talk with ChatGPT or Anthropic or Gemini or whichever is like AI chatbot of choice, you can ask for recommendation. And this is actually a use case that people have quite a bit in AI. They say, oh, look, I want to buy a t-shirt, or I want to, study this, which book should I buy? Or I want to get a dishwasher, right? Which one is the best model? Or anything that has to do with like purchasing. And now AI assists on that quite a bit. And AI companies are trying to make language models more and more, interesting and more skilled at giving these type of answers. But a piece is always missing, which is them having to actually make the purchase. So maybe the AI language model can tell you, yes, you need to study whatever philosophy, so you should read this book, or you need to study, computer science, so you should read that book. But then when it comes to actually buying it and paying for it, you have to actually go to the site or go to the bookstore, pay with your credit card instead, or your information registered. There's like a whole process. Well, a much better scenario would just be for the AI to say, would you like me to buy that for you? And then you say yes. So this is the problem that we're solving. And this is why we want to move towards AI payments. I do personally believe, as VP of Research in AEON, that AI payments are really the future, not only of crypto, but also like a regular currency. And we want to be, and we are at the forefront of that. So the mission comes from a very specific need that people have within the space. And then obviously the gap that we're bridging, given that we already do crypto settlements in 173 countries with 30 million merchants, was a bit smaller maybe than someone that had to start from scratch. So it was a perfect opportunity for us to expand our product line.
It's very interesting to think about the infrastructure built by humans and designed for the AI itself. So, and there's a term is Agentic Commerce. So could you explain what that actually means? And also, as the whole process you just described, what is, and it's actually quite autonomous, right? So how AEON enabled this autonomous agent to search and then buy and then pays without any human intervention at all. It's very interesting to think about the infrastructure built by humans and designed for the AI itself. So
agentic commerce effectively is simply the idea of, instead of a human browsing and like comparing items at checkout, the AI effectively does all of that automatically. So instead of you open the site and then compare the price, fill in the form, register, and all the process that I talked about seconds ago, you just talk with an AI agent and you say, find me the best deal on this particular washing machine that I want to buy, or this particular hotel that I want to book. So the AI will take care of all of that. Like the agent does the research and makes the decision on what is the best deal, and then perhaps asks for confirmation and makes the payment autonomously. So makes the reservation autonomously in case of a hotel. All of this effectively is powered by AEON because we give them a very verifiable on-chain identity. We worked a lot with X402. We worked a lot with the Ethereum Foundation to effectively create the infrastructure that allows the agents to actually make the payment. For X402, we built the very first X402 facilitator on BNB chain. As you know, BNB chain is a huge player in the space, and there's millions of transactions that happen on BNB chain. A lot of these transactions will be made by AI at some point, and the facilitator that we built effectively allows these AI agents to settle these transactions on BNB chain. But we work on agent identification, we work on infrastructure, we work on swapping of the different currencies between tokens and fiat, or even tokens and other tokens. So it's really a complete infrastructure play, I would say. There are obviously highlights here and there of things that are quite unique, like the facilitator on BNB. But as a whole, AEON is very much an infrastructure company, and we see it as a payment gateway, like a global remittance layer. We usually call it internally. So we provide that like underlying capabilities that are needed by these agents to perform these actions.
And that really feels like the next evolution of the economy. And how do you see this AI agent changing the way that people interact with the blockchain in daily life? Does this mean the end of complex wallet management for the average user? And that really feels like the next evolution of the economy.
Hopefully, but it's not only for AI. I think that a big topic in crypto and in blockchain for the past few years, and since I've been in crypto in 2017, has been mass adoption, right? So especially lately, after DeFi summer, we're talking more and more about how do we get regular people to use crypto? How do we get legitimacy? How do we get institutions to use crypto, and so on and so forth? And to me, the answer to that question is always the same, and every time that they ask it, it's always the same. It's user experience. You need to make something easy. The regular web and the people that use the regular web, they don't know about where a website is hosted, or which payment method gateway people are using, like whether it's Stripe or PayPal or whichever other bank merchant. They don't know about CSS, right? They don't know about DNS. They don't know about any of the infrastructure that effectively power the regular web. While crypto users, they are required to know a bunch of technical things that effectively makes the level of adoption and the barrier of adoption very, very high. Wallet and wallet addresses is definitely one of them. As well as slippage or cross-chain, or the fact that you need to figure out, you have a certain amount of currency, you need to figure out which chain is it on, how to bridge it somewhere else where you can actually use it, and all of these things, they effectively make it more difficult for everybody, for everyday people like my mom, for example, to use payments and crypto. My mom still doesn't know exactly what they do after all these years. So she knows I work with tech and with money, but she doesn't quite grasp the concept. And one thing that we want to do is really make that life easier. So I do think that the way that we created some of these things, it's perfect, and it's very, very in need of being preserved, right? So we should not lose the decentralization, we should not lose the trust minimization, we should not lose any of the values that power the crypto industry as a whole, but at the same time, we should make it easier. And I think that what we do with agentic payment is making it easier. So instead of, going up to open a wallet, picking a chain, and figuring out, gas, sign the transaction, and then just like hope that the transaction settles, we are giving agents and users the possibility to just like click a button and just pay in the same way that they do with their credit card, while connecting still their wallet. Like they can still connect their their non-custodial wallet or decentralized or centralized exchange account, and then we take care of everything. So it reduces the barrier while keeping the same values in place.
I'm very glad to hear that it's getting more easier and easier for the blockchain adoption towards the real world. For example, if you have some crypto money and then if they don't have any of this infrastructure, it's actually very hard to spend all this money into the real life. But with the infrastructure and what AMPay is doing, it brings these payments into the real life, and then I can just use them seamlessly. And this also encourage more and more Web2 people to get know about blockchain and start to use their crypto, and also start to use the crypto in their daily life. I think that's a very amazing thing. So you just mentioned quite a lot about how AMPay make things more easy. I would also really like to hear more about, is there some real case scenario that AMPay is currently doing and proud of? For example, I've heard, yes. For example, I've heard that the AMPay is already live across millions of the merchants globally, and also those AI initiative payments and the actual merchant adoption in the Southeast Asia and Africa. Can you walk us through about all of those real life scenarios that AMPay is currently supporting?
Yeah, absolutely. So we already support hundreds of thousands of transactions a month in real life, so retail and in online merchants. This is without AI. So this is before all of the transactions that AI does. Mm-hmm. And the way that we did this, you said it correctly, was to partner with POS provider across Southeast Asia, across Africa, now very soon across the Middle East and across Latin America. We're already there. And effectively, this created the network of over 30 million merchants that can support you. The way that it works is very, very simple and straightforward. There's a lot of engineering behind it, as you can imagine, but from a user perspective, it's simple. We display a QR code on the POS actual machine. And that is something that in these regions is very, very common. I don't know if you ever went to Vietnam or to Thailand or Cambodia, Indonesia. There's like a lot of QR payments already with regular currency. And with the AEON app, users can just scan this QR code. They can connect their wallet or their exchange account, select the token that they want to pay with, and pay. Obviously, everything is customizable, but there is also a solution that has literally like a 2-click payment. So just select the wallet, like which balance you want to pay with, and pay. But you can go much more in depth. You can go into like selecting which currency you want to pay with, selecting connecting a new wallet, for example. So there's options for even more advanced users. This powered, as I said, already a bunch of transactions. When it comes to AI specifically, it's important, I think, to talk a little bit about the X42 protocol and what that does. Right? So X42 is effectively a messaging layer, right? So we partner with Coinbase. They created this fantastic protocol that lets AI agents and services talk about payment in a standard language, right? In a standardized way. And effectively, on one side, this is obviously simplifying a whole lot. You have an agent or an API provider that wants to, get paid or wants to pay something. And then X42 defines messages like, this is how you create an invoice, this is how you check the balance, this is how you send the payment request, and so on. Underneath, you still have a lot of the crypto networks and the tokens that we all know and love, but they're kind of like abstracted away in a sense. So they're a bit separate from the eyes of the user. We personally, as I said, provide an X42 SDK and a facilitator, so a gateway on BNB chain. But we also have a number of integrations with actual AI agents and people that are using X42 and AEON to settle their transactions on BNB chain. So that adds another layer of very interesting overlap between what is our payment gateway, sorry, not payment gateway, but more like, I should say, remittance and settlement layer, and what is agentic payment or agentic commerce, as you called it before.
Yes, very cool. And yeah, I've heard you mention a lot of times for the Coinbase X42 collaboration and also the facilitator that generated from the BNB chain. So can you tell us a little bit about the story behind how these two collaborations start?
Yeah, absolutely. So very interesting story. We've been in contact with BNB chain and with Binance for a very long time. Since we started with AEON, Ed is actually, our co-founder is actually ex-Binance. He was in the fiat side of Binance, and then him and I, we met in Chainlink. I was director of integration there and platform, and he was looking into Swift. When Ed left Chainlink, obviously he wanted to create something that was more on the PayFi side of things, and that's how AEON was born. But the Binance ecosystem supported us a lot throughout the years that we've been doing this, the couple of years that we've been doing this. When it comes to Coinbase, it was a little bit more of a extemporaneous relationship, and so we didn't have a lot of context beforehand with Coinbase, but we saw that they were working on this fantastic project, and we were doing payments as well. So we started chatting about it, and we started to find overlapping areas of where we could help each other. And Leo, which is our CTO, was leading that effort directly with the Coinbase team, and then eventually they came to this POC that became the facilitator that now you see now. So this all to say that obviously it's knowing people from beforehand and having worked with people, it's important. But at the end of the day, when you have a product that works and when you actually are building something that solves a problem, it's quite straightforward to find partnerships and to find people that also want to solve the problem. And the team at Binance and the team at Coinbase, they're both excellent teams, and they are incredibly smart people. They're really doing this to facilitate the mass adoption of crypto, which is very similar to the same mission that we have. So it was a match made in heaven with both of them.
That's very true. If you have a very clear things that you're doing and also the real life issue that you're solving, is actually attracting those people who are also working the same issue and then seeing how this can collaborate.
Correct.
Yes, very interesting. So yeah, let's also talk about some PayFi. So with the AEON checkout and the AEON Pay connecting traditional merchants to on-chain payments, it feels like the financial layer. So how do you see this PayFi reshaping the future of e-commerce and probably the banking infrastructure? That's very true. If you have a very clear things that you're doing and also the real life issue that you're solving, is actually attracting those people who.
Interesting question, because we saw a lot of the crypto blockchain words moving towards infrastructure lately, right? So RWA and infrastructure investment, institutional investment is very much a focus for the industry as a whole nowadays. And I think the PayFi is a very key component of that adoption and that facilitation that people try to do so much. Historically, crypto was very different from traditional bank, right? So the decentralized nature of it and the trust minimized nature of it made it so we started this to oppose, in a way, the system that was currently in place. And I think that's very important to keep. PayFi, to me, is just the evolution of this decentralized transaction. In crypto, we do a lot of transactions, but there's not a lot of payments, right? And to me, that is effectively the way that you bring blockchain into the real world, and you bring blockchain into the real purchases, as opposed to just having financial transactions between crypto assets or between crypto people. that is the point of connection. How it will change banks, I don't know. We already saw that there's a bunch of banks that are moving towards crypto. Revolut being like at the very forefront of that, like they have quite a big crypto push. But there's also some traditional companies that are moving towards crypto, like traditional financial companies, say Robinhood, for example. Right? There is definitely an interest and like an increased interest in what we are doing from the traditional finance side of things. I don't know exactly what it will happen in the future, but what I do hope is that we keep the values where they are, and the traditional finance adapts to the crypto values as opposed to the other way around. So that's definitely my hope and my wish.
Yes, and I also think that Ian also doing this thing and pushing this thing forward. And yeah, so of course with the AI-driven payments, the elephant in the room is always the compliance. Yes, and I also think that Ian also doing this thing.
That is a very, very important question. And to me, I always say that security and reliability is the very first priority, P0, and then regulatory compliance, especially when it comes to payment, is like just P0.5. So we actually are regulatory compliant in over 173 countries in the world. And this is all thanks to Alchemy Pay. Alchemy Pay is one of our earliest investors, and we have a very, very strong relationship with them. They are a on and off ramping service that already is compliant in over 170 countries in the world. So we inherit the compliance layer, and everything that happens within AEON, obviously each country's got a different regulation and they have different threshold and different rules, but it's all like according to the regulation and the standard that also Alchemy Pay follows. So for us, it was very straightforward to implement it in AEON because we were able to leverage that Alchemy Pay compliance and regulatory layer. We do obviously KYB and KYC all across the board, and like on all of our users. That's very important when it comes to adhering, I would say, to the different regulations. But also we are starting now to do KYA, right? And in the industry, we're talking a bit about know your agents and like what are effectively the regulations that should apply to AI agents, because effectively the moment that they start acting as users, they will also have the same responsibilities as the users they are utilizing them. So slowly we are looking into that as an industry, and I'm very happy to say that as AEON, we are like at the very forefront of that effort, because this is something that is very, very important for us, and we want to make sure that all of the products that we do, they actually have all of the cards correct where they need to be, and we can offer the service in the most countries in the world as possible.
So you just mentioned the KYA, the Know Your Agent. Is that already achieved, or you guys keep exploring this industry?
In certain use cases, it is. As an industry in crypto, we are not quite there yet, but also the AI industry is probably not quite there yet. And I think that there are still efforts that need to be made by these, AI frameworks like and SDKs on making sure that there is a good agentic identification. For us, in certain use cases in AEON, it is already a requirement. In some others, not. The regulation is still coming to fruition as we speak. Like, so even the governments are still discussing about these issues. So I do expect that it will be much more defined within maybe like the next year, like during 2026. But now it's a bit early. We are doing everything that is required and more at the moment, but I think that the requirement will keep coming.
Cool. Yeah, I do think that with the like the mass improve of the AI, and also with the more and more coming with the AI agents and the more and more usage of the AI agentic commerce, I think the KYA is a very important industry where it's a very key thing for the compliance, right? Yeah, I do think that with the like the mass improve.
Absolutely, I completely agree.
And probably AEON is the first tier of the payments that are doing this thing. It'll be very interesting to see that. And probably Ian is the
Yeah, we, I don't know if we're the first. We're definitely very focused on it because ultimately we all know that this is something that will happen, and we all know that this is something that will be a requirement. So might as well get ahead of it and be leaders as opposed to having to catch up when the requirement actually comes.
So yeah, this has come to the final stage. So looking ahead for our communities and investor watching, could you share the Ian's roadmap for the next 12 months? What key releases or ecosystem expansions should we be watching out for? So yeah, this has come to the final stage. So
I can share some things for sure. So we talked a lot about how we effectively now have two separate product lines, or somewhat separate product lines. They use a similar infrastructure and a similar remittance layer. One key strategic focus for this year is to bring them together. So we want to have more and more integration between X402 and our PayFi network. So that the team is very focused on making that happen. We also want to expand our external X402 and regular integration. So we're expanding to more nations as we speak. I mentioned Middle East is very high in the priority list, but there's more to come in South America, maybe somewhere else in the world. So there will be more nations, but also there will be more X402 integration. So we are seeing the rise of AI agents across the board. And I think that, at least for me, like from a partnership perspective, I'm getting more and more contacted by people that want to utilize, for example, our facilitator. They want to utilize our SDK. So that is coming. I also think that we are creating new partnerships on the infrastructure side. So you saw, I don't know if some of you were at DevConnect some time ago in Argentina, but there were quite a few announcements by people like MetaMask, Wallet Connect, and Ledger. So all of these wallets, they're trying to expand their infrastructure and their offering quite a bit, and they're all talking about payment in some way or the other. So now they are very much looking into providing services that are embedded within the single applications. And this applies to wallet, it applies to lending markets, it applies to exchanges. So we are working with some of these partners across the spectrum of the industry to facilitate those payments. And we already did some very important integration on BNB, for example, with Welo or with 4Meme, when we provide the underlying payment and PayFi layer for those apps. We're going to see more of those integrations also for applications that are not necessarily connected now to payment, but that they will be connected to payments and they're expanding to payments in the future. So these are the 3 or 4 main focuses that I can disclose at this stage, but I will say the best way to know about it is to follow our Telegram and our Twitter. Our Twitter is AEON_community. And that's a great way to keep in touch with what people are up to and what we are releasing on a now weekly basis. We do pretty much weekly releases, it's either a new market or new features.
Interesting to hear that, and very, very exciting for what's upcoming next. Yeah, so there's one more question to wrap all of those things up. So let's now zoom out completely. Looking beyond the technology, what does the world of autonomous payments mean for human commerce? Do you think AI will eventually have its own financial sovereignty? Interesting to hear that, and very, very exciting for what's upcoming next. Yeah, so there's one more question.
It's an interesting question. I think that the interesting part is not, owning money in a human sense, but AI being trusted with more decisions, right, and with more economic decisions. Nowadays, AI payment are quite limited, as we discussed, but autonomous payment eventually will mean that many small decisions that now we take as humans will be made by somebody else and or something else, and now we need to figure out how to trust and what are the rules on what to trust and what to not trust of that something else. So I think that's the interesting part. For the human comments, I think that you gain leverage So, one person can manage much more complexity, more accounts, maybe like more opportunities, like multiple AI agents. And then for the AI system, there will be obviously entities that will hold treasuries and act in markets in ways that are now unthinkable, and they're completely independent, right? So I think this legal and regulatory frameworks will still want someone like human or organization ultimately being responsible, at least for now. But there's definitely going to be an evolution towards more and more autonomous payments.
Yes, very interesting. Yeah, so yeah, this is a very powerful thought to end this whole interview. So yeah, Mike, thank you so much for joining us and sharing the AEON vision. It's been an absolute pleasure for all of this interview, and thank you for tuning in to CoinRank, and we will see you next time.
Yeah, and likewise. Thank you so much, Miki. And again, if you want to know more about us, just follow us on AEON_community on Twitter, or my own personal Twitter, which is MK Masari. I post quite a lot about what we're working on, and you can find, interventions that I do or speeches around the world talking about AI, AEON, and PayFi. So please do follow. And yeah, thank you so much, Miki. It was lovely to talk with you today.